I'm here to talk to you for the next 25 minutes or so. Something a little bit different, building a digital bank, the story of TNEX. And you might wonder, why is a guy from Ireland standing here talking to you about a digital bank in Vietnam? Like most things in life, it's a long story, but I will give you the short version of it. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and I'm going to talk a little bit about the sort of macro environment in Vietnam and how TNEX Bank came to be, and give you a little bit of context about our own involvement, and talk about some of the numbers and how all of that relates to APIs and microservices, some of the outcomes, and then we'll have a couple of questions for anybody who might like to ask them. So that covers the agenda part of it. From the point of view of Vietnam, some or all of you may have visited the country at some point and either been to Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi or various other parts of the fabulous country that is Vietnam. It's a country of 98 million people. It's a country of about nearly 70% underbanked. Extraordinarily, it's a country that has had an average GDPR growth of over 6% for the last 20 years. Right now, their GDP growth rate is actually faster than that of Singapore, and growing. In terms of young affluent, you can see the numbers there, 36 million people joining that young affluent sector by 2030. Huge penetration of smartphones, much like the rest of the world, and they love Facebook. 6 hours and 38 minutes a day spent on social media, mostly Facebook. In fact, I just spoke to the CEO of TNEX about an hour ago, and he told me that a TikTok video that they posted a few days ago got 3.5 million views. So that'll give you a sense of their social penetration. The founder team that founded TNEX, some of you who follow influencers on LinkedIn, or not so much influencers, but thought leaders on LinkedIn around digital transformation, digital banking, and so on, may know of Brian Carroll. You may also know of David Jimenez Mariales, both of whom, in their own right, if you don't follow them on LinkedIn, I recommend you do, and Dr. Nha Pham as well. Between them, they came up with a vision for TNEX based on a very strong strategy and proposition, and also their combined experience, which is huge. And along with their partners, including Amazon Web Services, ourselves, and others, have built this proposition over the last couple of years. And as I said, if you don't follow them, I would definitely recommend you do on LinkedIn. So what was the opportunity, and why TNEX, and why now? The opportunity really was appealing to that youth sector in Vietnam, with 38 million millennials and Generation Z individuals, 26 million of those 38 underbanked, an average income of about $3,500 a year, and a growth rate in those migrating into the working population. So ultimately, a growth in their incomes. Combined with the GDPR growth or GDP growth forecast, the opportunity was a significant one. And I think in terms of the sort of use of social media by the Gen Z population, if you visit Vietnam, you'll see it, and the use of anything from Facebook to smart apps. They're a very, very connected society. You could argue we all are these days, but in Vietnam, it's certainly very, very prolific. So how did we get involved, and why? We became a partner to TNEX, and late in 2019 when we agreed to co-build the platform with them and build an ecosystem of value for them. Little did I think that the world would change on its head in the months that followed. We led the design and build of a number of core elements of the platform, specifically their merchant ecosystem, and I'll talk about it in a minute. And we were very instrumental in the design of the solution architecture. Critically, and not just for API's sake, but the API first approach that has been very much critical to the success of this bank has ensured that all functionalities that have been designed into the platform are delivered through a set of strategic APIs across digital channels, middle and back office operations. There are 24 microservices across the platform covering more than 500 operations. And obviously we have authentication and authorization built into that as well. But it's not really just about that, it's more about the customer experiences, and mostly about the customer experiences that all of this enables, and the criticality of that to making TNEX the success that it is. So some challenges worth mentioning. I think everybody's experienced this, but during the initiation of this program with a 200 mile per hour, highly agile on steroids requirement to get a solution live, we were hit by, as was the rest of the world, by the global pandemic, and certainly that proved to be very challenging. Building a digital bank over Teams and Zoom is not something I'd recommend. However, we got there. We had a multi-country collaboration across multiple countries, multiple continents, and ultimately all of that produced a digital bank. And core to that is what you see here. And I'll just give you a brief overview of this. So the TNEX proposition is very much focused on that Generation Z, on building a financial and a lifestyle ecosystem to engage, to attract, to engage, to captivate, and to maintain a very strategic relationship with this generation of users. And critical to that are a number of the services you see around this circle. So data is absolutely critically at the heart of everything, and data is enabled and powered by the strategic APIs that sit around this platform. We have built a compelling marketplace for exchange of services through merchants. You can pay by QR code, so there's a closed-loop payment system. You can rate and review, you can follow merchants, and you can earn various rewards for loyalty through that merchant ecosystem. Alongside that, there are various other kind of attributes of the platform and of the proposition to help maintain and keep people there. So gamification through the game sub, as you can see, the ability to sell insurance, and obviously motorbike insurance is something pretty critical given the volume of motorbikes and scooters and so on that exist. Alongside that, advice, kind of life advice, health advice, core financial service capability through current account, savings account, bill payments, and coming soon, unsecured lending and micro investment capability. A huge part of this platform is the social integration of it. So the chat capability, P2P payments, very much a focus, as lots of companies do these days, on sustainability and the carbon footprint, and TNEX are very strong on that. They're also very strong socially at engaging with the community that they have effectively created and the ecosystem that they have created, and they have a very, very strong social following across the various channels. So a very powerful, compelling proposition, supported by a customer data platform, supported by a marketplace of value, and supported by the ability to trade across that marketplace. So it continues to grow and evolve, and as that ecosystem evolves, I think you will see a lot more functionality and services, and it will continue to go from strength to strength. So a few screenshots just to kind of bring this to life a little bit. So very much to the theme of embedded finance today, embedding banking into your lifestyle. So these screenshots show the kind of gamification and highly personalized experiences that TNEX has produced. There's a solar system. There's quite a lot of gamification built into this, and an emoji-driven personal financial platform. Lots of ways to attract, engage, and maintain the Gen Z population that are using it. And it continues to evolve. The user experience has been very much designed to be not a traditional, should I say, boring user experience that lots of banks have developed, but something very different. And a huge amount of time and effort has gone in to make this the best, most engaging possible set of user experiences for the end users. All of which, of course, behind the scenes is powered by very compelling microservices and APIs. So what does all of this mean? This is a bit of an example of a day in the life of across the ecosystem. So, you know, most of us do this anyway. You wake up in the morning and, you know, you check your daily balance. You move from that to commuting. You know, you're reading some information on the Education Hub. You might buy something for breakfast. You might go to college, and you will engage with how you're feeling. You might, order a photo, order food at lunchtime and kind of engage that way through the platform, and so on throughout the day. There are various points along that journey at which you can very much engagement lifetime point of view with the platform, all the way through to making a payment to friends and colleagues via chat in the platform. The loyalty and gamification, they have a lucky wheel where you can win rewards, and they have monthly draws that are streamed live. It's quite a big deal for the community that are part of this. So from a product roadmap point of view, we started this journey at the beginning of 2020, launched at the end of 2020 with a bank account, a debit card, a QR codes payment capability for the merchant ecosystem, and a personal financial management capability. In 2021, that moved through virtual debit cards, e-wallet, some of the chat capability that I mentioned earlier, motorbike insurance, the ability to track your mood, and other functionality, including fitness around step tracking and so on. And from that, the merchant marketplace capability has very much evolved in 2022, with now an education hub, with social savings, with more gamification, unsecured lending coming soon, and further micro investment capability. So all the time, a constant evolution, and all the time ensuring that the backbone that has been built to power this is delivering what it needs to be, and that very much is the case. So that is the roadmap. And so what has all of this meant? Well, to give you a sense of it, we launched the platform at the end of 2020. So effectively in 18 months, we went from 0 to 1.25 million customers, which by any stretch of the imagination in a new bank that's digital only was quite the pace of growth. You could argue and you could contend that the pandemic in some respects helped the start of that, but I would also say that the leadership team in TNEX were fantastic in their use of various social channels and so on, in engaging the community and really driving a huge amount of excitement across this platform, and selling and advocating the capabilities within the ecosystem. And having new merchants join and set up their stores and so on has been hugely valuable from an SME point of view, but for the consumers as well that are core to the platform, they've very much seen the value as it's grown, and it's become a very well-known success story across Southeast Asia, and is very much a poster child in that regard. And you know how all of that is supported by APIs. Well, just to give you a live sense of that, last month we had 100 million API calls on the platform. That's September 2022 data, about 5 million calls a day on average. And the APIs and the supporting microservices are absolutely critical to the lifeblood and ongoing success and development of TNEX as a proposition, as an ecosystem, and as a set of services that sit around it. The API gateway is fundamentally critical to that. The security modules that sit around it are absolutely critical. So, you know, infinite scalability is really, really important to us. Cloud hosting with our partners in AWS has been incredibly important as well. And the criticality of security is obviously of paramount importance in a digital bank in 2022. It's quite interesting that it has been noted as a poster child across Southeast Asia and beyond. And like I said earlier, if you follow Brian or David, they'll speak quite eloquently about it, and they're often asked to speak at conferences like this. You know, just in terms of how did you do it, and how did you do it in financial services, and how did you do it in the middle of a pandemic? So it has been a very interesting journey to date. I think those numbers of API calls are going to very, very significantly grow. I think the strategic nature of the infrastructure that we have built has meant that the accelerated growth of new services and solutions is very much enabled. You could contend that, you know, there was no technical debt to deal with. Well, TNEX is part of a broader group called MSB Bank, and yes, it largely is a standalone bank, but we do have to connect it to some legacy solutions as well. So having the ability to connect to services through APIs has been incredibly important for us, and for both TNEX and MSB, its parent as well. The future I think is looking very, very bright for TNEX. The value-added services that are going to be added to this platform, I think, will be significant. And I think for the Gen Z user base that are using it, they're extremely happy. And if you look at the quantum of opportunity with 98 million people and 68-9% of them unbanked, then you can see where the growth opportunities really, really lie. And I think as the ecosystem builds out, and you can ultimately possibly buy flights with points that you've earned from activity on your current account, your savings account, for example, you can see where a lot of this will go. And I think the segmentation opportunities and the ability to have real-time personalization powered by APIs and smart technology will continue to give TNEX Bank a cutting edge over and above any of their competitors across Southeast Asia and beyond. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit unusual. It's in a different market with a different set of regulations, I know. But we're very proud to have been part of this journey. And it's very hard to do it justice in 15, 20 minutes. But hopefully you get a sense of what we've done, why we've done it collectively, why this journey and this vision was I guess, created in the first instance, and a little sense of the success that it's been. So in terms of awards, TNEX has been nominated for and won 8 international awards. It won the Asian Banker Vietnam Awards of 2022 for the best digital-only bank in Vietnam. It does have some competitors, and it's won a number of other international awards and been in receipt of a lot of acclaim globally for the pace, the capability, the opportunity, and the strategic insight that has brought it to where it is. Couple of quotes from a couple of the other solution providers. Mambu, who from a lending platform point of view are tightly coupled to what we built and very much part of the success. They have been very clearly strongly advocating it's no longer just a bank, but an overall ecosystem serving different segments, which we'd very much endorse. The partners in AWS, who've been fantastic as well, have kind of very clearly called out the sort of benefits and success of TNEX itself. So great to get that endorsement, and it certainly has given the injection of energy to bring this forward even further. So that is a short summary, folks. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Mostly external through the gateway. There's some internal calls on that number as well, but mostly external, yeah. Well, I suppose fundamentally the Gravity Gateway, which is part of this, from an identity and access management capability point of view, was key. Also, the security credentials and components that come with AWS and some other security credentials built into other aspects of the platform that we built have meant, like I come from 25 years of financial services kind of core, so very much with that lens, our CTO is the same, and with that lens, we've ensured typical historical enterprise sort of scale security that you would expect in a large bank. That thesis has been employed here, let me put it to you like that. Yeah.
Earlier on there was a talk where someone was saying that traditional banks are not making much money.
Sure.
So as a new bank like this, talk a bit more about the business model and it's making more money.
Yeah, I can. I mean, so the question is around the business model and kind of how to derive more income or income out of it, and where the revenue lines are. I suppose a number of areas. The core current account, savings account is probably more a function of scale because of the volume of if you like, users and participants and customers. The ecosystem, as it grows, is driving revenue, and then the ability to monetize data is extremely valuable in its own right. So, anonymized data with actionable insights that are particularly powerful can help you drive significant, volumes of revenue over time. And I think as this grows, that will very much be the case. And also, participation, as participants are added to the ecosystem, there are things like advertising revenue, et cetera, that will follow through. I think, in Europe, a lot of neobanks, a lot of digital banks are struggling to adopt sustainable lines of revenue, but they're looking at these kind of areas like not just merchant ecosystems, broader ecosystems to help orchestrate opportunity and derive new lines of revenues in a sustainable way. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that. I think the sort of ability to connect to the core utility that is a bank and provide these suites of services is definitely going to drive new revenue, without a doubt. And that's very much in the strategic thinking of the leadership team in TNEX, I know as well. So that's where their heads are at the moment. I think they were really keen to get a critical mass of customers on board, and very much they've done that now. So they're starting to see some really powerful insights, some amazing data science led by Dr. Nia behind the scenes and kind of throughout, and the value of those insights is getting interesting too. So hope that answers the question. Yeah. It is, Paul. It's a good question. I think so the question was about APIs enabling to move into new geographies, and without a doubt, I think the regulatory environment may be somewhat different, but the challenges are broadly similar. And I think as an accelerator and as a critical key component of a digital bank's DNA, let me put it to you like that, it's absolutely key. And to be able to connect ecosystems together, to glue these things together in a very strategic, highly secure way, there's only one way to do that. And having strategic APIs as your backbone, and having microservices sitting around that are the only way you do it in 2022. So absolutely, and I think it'll be a big accelerator that will be fundamental to the success of anybody who tries to do this. In a similar way in Asia and further afield for that matter.